Hello, I'm Lee Povey,
And I'm Steve Mellor.
and we are two high performers who have transitioned from the world of sport to business as high-performance executive and leadership coaches to those looking to take themselves and their companies to new heights,
The road to success can seem like a lonely one at times.
especially for a founder.
So we decided to form the Founders Catalyst, a show that provides the very support system necessary for founders, leaders, and high performers like you to receive the coaching, community, and catalyst required to ignite your journey.
To be clear, this is no place for fluffy content that only covers the highlights of achieving an ultimate goal.
Instead, our mission is to deliver the difficult conversations that most people may be afraid to have. The ones laced with truth, vulnerability,
And impactful insights from our first-hand experiences in the trenches with founders and leaders operating at the highest stakes.
You don't have to go it alone through the highs and lows of leadership and business ownership anymore.
Let us be the catalyst that you, your company, and your entire ecosystem need to excel in unprecedented ways.
This is the Founders Catalyst. Okay, hello, welcome. This is Founders Catalyst, episode 1, New Beginnings. I'm Steve Mellor. You're going to hopefully get used to my voice, and I'm joined, as I always will be, by my fellow countryman, Lee Povey. Say hi to the people, Lee.
Hello, people. Welcome to our podcast.
Yes, and that's a great word right away to emphasize while I may be leading us in here. This is ours. This is a shared experience. We're really excited to be collaborating on something, having existed in one another's worlds now for the better part of 2 years. But Lee, I immediately want to pass it over to you. It's important that, hey, people know that this was this thing is your child. It is your genesis. It's something that came from you. I would love for you just to provide everybody an insight. When you say Founders Catalyst, what are we doing here? What is the message of this show?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. The message of the show is we want to create a space and a community where people, founders, can come together. They can share their wins, they can share their struggles, they can meet other founders and be part of a community. And the podcast role in that community is for us to get guests on that can come and talk about their experience as being a founder. And then for me and you to share our experience as coaches working with founders, what we see, the issues that we see routinely come up, the problems that we see people dealing with, and then offer as many solutions, helpful tidbits, advice, and support as we possibly can. I strongly believe that the world is made better by really creative, brilliant people being enabled to do the things that they do. And it takes a community to do that. And this kind of thought that, it should be lonely at the top and being a founder is lonely, while that can be true, I'd like to be part of the solution for that. I want there to be more community, and I want people to get more support, and I want more people to be successful in the world.
And there's a couple things right away, and I hope people hear there is a little bit about both of our stories. We're both coaches. We've both come from this world of sports coaching. We both now exist in this world of working with business owners and executives in different capacities. People are going to learn, I think, our stories of the work that we're doing in our respective businesses as we go through the show. And something that you've immediately touched on here that I'm most excited about being a part of, and why I just gravitated towards this project when we started talking about it, was this notion of support. Communities are a real thing, and too often in this space of the founder's mindset, if you will, or the founder's experience, or the startup experience, however you look at it, there's this belief of kind of going at it on your own, this independence, if you will, that I think a lot of the time folks get wrong, is that you don't have to fly by yourself. You don't have to soar high away from everybody else. There's a a communal component to this, and that communal component can happen from day one, from the very beginning. The earlier I would have to personally push that here right away is that the earlier the communal component can be inserted into the founder's entire journey, the better. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and this harks back to our sporting backgrounds. I learned at a very young age, as an athlete, I did better when I was in a community. You know, I'm a highly competitive person. I don't care whether it's tiddlywinks, go-karting, track cycling. I want to beat you and I want to crush you. The second that we've said that we're on the pitch. In between, though, the games, I want to sit down and enjoy time with other people that are motivated and have the same aims as me. And I found as a young man that when I was doing sport around other people, even when it was individual sports, but we were training together, my performance would always be better because we would push each other in training, we'd push each other in racing, and we would all become better because of it. And I've seen exactly the same thing with entrepreneurs, founders, you know, high achievement people in the entertainment industry here in LA. Surround yourself with other high achievers and you will get pushed, you will get supported. You'll find that those people are the people that will give you the feedback that nobody else wants to give you. And that is going to be a theme for our work together here is like, where do you get and where can you seek feedback that really pushes the needle forwards for you? And I know that I'm always seeking that. Where can I find people that aren't going to tell me what I want to hear, but they're going to tell me what I need to hear? And they're going to tell me that because they love me, because we're in community with each other, not because they want to be smart or they want to put me down or they want to be better than me, because they want the best for me.
Yeah, it's why I love that here we are as two coaches that separately, I'm sure we can build a strong business and we can one day thrive. I can already say, having not even ever shared the same space as you in terms from a professional standpoint, we've never coached together, we've never worked together in that capacity. This is the first time we're doing anything in collaboration. I can already say that I've benefited from knowing you and having you in my community. And for me, I do that with other coaches. A couple of them probably unbeknownst to them, quite frankly. They don't even know that they're in my community for that reason. And I enjoy creating that relationship with them in a way where I feel as though they have the space to come and challenge me. And in doing so, they're creating the space for me to challenge them too. And it's a give and take that supports each of us individually in our own lane. But at the same time, bringing those lanes closer to one another, it just allows you to actually have this space. To your point, it's a trust, right? You're building this sense of trust towards other people where you are starting to slowly trust that even though you may be competitive in some way, shape, or form, that competitive spirit is actually at its best when it's brought toward one another and you're pushing one another in that process.
Yeah. You know, my belief, Steve, is that the best version of me is going to be successful, and it always has been. Everything I've done, I'm lucky to be a success, and I've also intentionally been a success. You know, there's a component of luck in everything in life, and people aren't willing to admit that. They're naive, because there is always some component of luck in success. And you can be intentional, and you can create as much of that, and your luck or your opportunity for luck goes up. And I know that I've been around other people, and being in their presence has enabled me to be a better version of myself. And by being a better version of myself, I am more successful. So I have to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, that have achieved more than me, that have things to offer me. And not because it's transactional, because I want to offer them things as well. You know, I always view relationships as being equal, even if somebody might have more than me, be that money, be that success, be that followership, whatever it is. I'm going to give my all to every relationship that I'm in. One of my coaching colleagues, in his contract, instead of calling relationships 50-50, he calls them 100-100. And I really like that he's expecting 100% from you in the coaching relationship, and he's going to give 100%. So you're not meeting in the middle, you're both giving all that you have. Those are the relationships that I want in the world. Community and connection is vital to me, and I know I'm not the only one. You know, as we'll discuss, I run men's groups, And I hear the same thing in men's groups all the time. They're lonely and they want more connection. And it doesn't matter how successful they are. It doesn't matter how much money. I work with billionaires. They're still lonely and they want connection.
That's right. That's right. And I never anticipated it in my coaching business, but some of my first clients to this day, some of my best clients were folks that came to me with a very similar sentiment. You know, they were many years into their business. They were, from the outside looking in, what so many, if not everybody, would consider a success. And yet they would look at me across the table and say, Steve, something's just missing. I don't feel challenged. I sometimes and often feel lonely. And it's what makes me want to immediately move to the second word that we've used here in the name of this podcast. Because sometimes we can do this, right? When we give something a name, we focus on the first word so much that everyone's like, that's what the show's about. But, you know, we're both coaches. Words mean a lot. You know, when people use words, they mean something. And this word catalyst, it's a word that I've used endless times in my life as a competitor, as a coach, and I'm sure you do as well. I'm curious for anybody listening to this who's maybe asking that question, what's going to be the catalyst part, do you think, of this podcast?
Oh, I love that. And I tortured myself thinking about what do I want to name this and like how gimmicky it can get and names that already existed. And for me, it's about creating new ideas, new ways of doing things, and the catalyst of that being in community. So being around other people, being inspired, being motivated, being held by other people. That's what catalyst means to me. It's that ignition of where are we going to take it from here? Where do you really want to get to? And that isn't about money for me. You know, as I said, I work with very wealthy people. I work with founders that are creating incredible companies, maybe having a big exit, maybe continuing in the company. And it's not about the money, it's about the impact. So it's like, what are you going to ignite yourself to impact in the world? And then what are you going to ignite in yourself to realize your fulfillment? As you're talking about there, you know, we've both worked with older men and older women who are sitting there going, right, I've got the attractive partner, I've got a nice house, I've got a nice car, I'm living the American dream. But you know what? I don't really feel that fulfilled, and I'm not sure I have enough happiness in my life or enough joy in my life. So that needs to be a big part of it too. I want people to create incredible things while knowing they can balance that with wonderful relationships with their kids, with their families, with their friends. It's not an all or, it's a and instead of or. Yeah,
I appreciate you providing your own definition of that term catalyst. For me, I've always, for the record, when I started my podcast 6 years ago, Career Competitor, like part of that was light the spark within you. That was a big part of it. Light the spark within you to go and pursue the career you're capable of achieving. And it all came back to that recognition that anything in my life that has ever been worthy of being considered a success or something that I might be proud of, at some point there was this initial spark for why I wanted to go and achieve it. But then there was many, many sparks along the way that would indicate my continued investment and my continued purpose towards what it was that I was trying to achieve. And that's what I love about this term catalyst, is that while, as you're putting it here, it can act as this almost element of decisiveness on the front end to say, hey, what's going to be that spark that's going to get me out of the starting gates to begin with? Say, hey, I want to consider this as an idea. And then what's going to be that spark for me to think about myself and how I need to show up and how I need to start investing in myself? But there's all this real estate in between. There's all this real estate in between, from that initial spark personally and that idea, that goal in the distance too, that's getting you excited about the journey. There's going to be these moments where we get stagnant, where we plateau, and a catalyst in those moments is just so vital. And you've already alluded to so many different versions of how those catalysts can come and show up in our lives in order to keep us going at those times when we frankly need it most, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just relate that to my own story. So I'm now in my fourth career. My first career was as an elite athlete. realizing fairly young that I wasn't going to go and be an Olympic champion. And at that point in the UK, there was no real professional track cycling. There wasn't a way to have a career as a track cyclist unless you were going to be an Olympian. And even then, it was very, very difficult. Now, luckily, they have a wonderful funding system and people can have careers as track cyclists.
Mm-hmm.
So then, okay, now pivot. What's next? Worked in real estate, worked for a corporate company, then decided that I wasn't very good working for other people. So I needed to go and open up my own business. Went and opened up my own business. Then I'm sitting there watching the European Track Championships in Cottbus. A kid that I'd been coaching was competing for UK. And I realized I didn't want to go back to being a real estate agent anymore. It was like, okay, wow, I don't love that anymore. What's next? Wasn't sure. Sold my business. Trained like a professional athlete. Or trained as a professional athlete, won a Masters National Championships, and then suddenly people said, "Hey Lee, would you like to coach me?" And I'd already been coaching people and mainly younger athletes, kind of as a service, give back to the community. And now I'm like, okay, maybe this could be a career. Spent 15 years doing that. Got to the end of that. Didn't feel like I was having enough impact in the world. I was having a huge impact on a small group of athletes. By this point, I was a national team coach working on a program developing towards the 2028 Olympics. COVID came, the program got put on hold, and I'm like, this is a great opportunity again to step back and go, what is it I want to do with my life? And every stage that something has externally happened to me that's made me stop and go, what do I really want? And then I step back and go, okay, what is my life going to mean and what's important to me? And for me now, I know it's impact, whatever version that is. And the current version is working with founders to help them be the best versions of themselves so that they can go and display their brilliance to the world without their personal stuff getting in the way. That's where my zone of genius is, and that's what I love.
Yeah, people are going to learn this about us as we go through the show. Is just in so many ways how our paths mirror one another. I'm on my fourth career too, and I've pulled it off with about 10 years less of life than you, mate. I
thought I was the sprinter in this relationship.
No. And the thing for me is like the most, I'm not going to go back into the other three parts because I'll go back to where I was prior to this, and I became an international swim coach. I was working with US Olympians by the time I was done. And I made that jump for the same reason that you did in so many ways. Is this is such a tiny world. The world of swimming is the smallest little world, and I've been operating in it for so long. And I mean that with not even an ounce of disrespect to anybody who's operating in it still. But for me, my approach to coaching spoke to a much wider reach, in my opinion. I always felt that. I even speak about it now when I get on stages and just say I was never a swim coach. It never sat with me. It never made sense to me. And the biggest epiphany I ever had was that I was actually a coach of swimmers. I just happened to be in the swimming space, but I was a coach first, and it was why I was so adamant about getting into this space I now operate in now as an executive coach, for me to be able to look at someone and say, whatever industry you're operating in, I believe there's a version of you that you're capable of pursuing if you so choose to pursue that version of yourself. If you want to pursue it, great. If you don't, now's not the right time. But what I love about this show is that anybody who's tuning in, fresh off this first episode, right out the gates, should be understanding that you can come here to get a sense of readiness, in my opinion. You can actually come and listen to us talk, and some of the people that are going to come in, they're going to help you see whether or not you're ready, because a lot of the time, we do a pretty crap job at actually acknowledging when we're ready, because we give ourselves 25 reasons as to why we're not ready. But true to both your and I's story, we didn't have a lot of readiness at any point of our transitions. We kind of just said, you know what, this is kind of where we want to go, and I'm feeling like now's the right time, and I'm going to go check it out and see what it's about, and I'm going to figure it out as I go. I mean, again, I might be speaking for you here, but there's a lot of that I think that people can get from this show too.
Yeah, no, I love that, Stephen. A bit of both for me. I love to be prepared. I go on vacation, I have a spreadsheet. There's activities for every day. I've thought about it for months. I've watched all the YouTube videos of where we're going. And then something clicks in me and I'm like, okay, just got to take the next step. And I trust that I'll figure it out. I went to a really good presentation by a sales coach called Jack Daly. And the theme of it was figure it out. And I really believe in that. You can't figure it out until you put yourself in a position to learn. And, it's interesting you talk about being ready to take the step. And, my clientele, the step for them, they've already made a business. They're already probably making hundreds of millions a year. Their business is turning over hundreds of millions a year. There's still another step. There's always another step, whether it be to, whether it be to do an IPO or to sell the business, or whether it be to change their position in a business from founder to something else. There's always another step. And there's always a journey. And this, for me, it's how do we help people lean into the journey and realize that every stage of the journey, you won't know everything. This is just not the way that the world works. That's not the way that our life works. You can only know it by doing it. And how do we get people into action? And, especially with our backgrounds, we're all about action, be that physical or emotional. And I really resonated with what you said about being a coach first, and then I just so happened to be a track sprint cycling coach because that was the sport that I was good at, and that was the sport that I did. But I've been coaching people my entire life. When I look at my relationships, I was a guy that everybody come to and said, hey Lee, what do I do about this? I was in men's groups from my early 20s. I was the youngest guy in my group, and immediately I was the leader of the group, and everybody was like, if there was a discussion, there was an argument, everyone would look at me like, can you sort this out for us? So it just partly who we are as human beings, and it's how do we express that. And both of us have done a lot of training to get to where we are, and a lot of self-reflection, a lot of work on ourselves, because I know that you take this role as seriously as I do. It's a role of how do we support people, not a role of how do we tell you how to do it. It's how do we hold your hand as you take the leap, and then how do we be there with you as you are learning, experiencing, and finding out whatever the hell it is you want to do with yourself, and whatever the impact that you want to have on the world.
Yeah, as we start to get to closing here on this first episode, I'm hoping people can start to connect with what this show is going to be about, and to put my coaching hat on here for a moment in trying to sum up what I'm hearing is that what I'm hearing is
it's a nice baseball cap.
It's a baseball. I mean, I don't have a hairline, so I've got to put something on to take that away from people.
I'm going to give you a slightly tough time. Yes, you did get to your fourth career quicker than I did, but it seems that you had to pull your hair out to get there, mate. Somehow I managed to keep.
It came at the expense. It came at the expense of my hairline, and I'm very comfortable with that. And I married someone that likes a bald man. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. But to capture here what I'm hearing from both of us that I hope people are hearing too is this is going to be a show for those with a willingness, with an appetite to see what it is they're capable of going and pursuing, whether it's just an idea right now or whether you're years and years into your journey. It's gonna help you in that regard. It's also going to help you from a supportive standpoint. It's going to give you some form of an escape, if not a community, to go toward as opposed to wait to come to you. You can come to us and see us as a resource for the support that you're going to need on this journey. But at the same time, we're both speaking to competitiveness as well. We want to win. We want to win and we want to succeed. And so again, it's as much as this can be a supportive place and a place where you feel as though you can be heard, and based on some of the accounts that we provide, I really hope from both of our backgrounds and the people that we are, you get the impression that if you're listening to this, we want you to get better. We want you to win and we want you to succeed, because that's the catalyst right there, And so, Lee, tell me if I'm missing anything here, mate.
No, there's two things that I really resonate with there. When people ask me what I do, I tell them I'm a high-performance leadership coach. I'm not just a leadership coach, I'm a high-performance leadership coach. I'm all about helping, supporting, cajoling, pushing, holding your hand for you to be the best version of yourself. Now, obviously, there is an there is a component of that where you have to be willing. I can't make you do it.
Right.
Just the same with our athletes. Can't make you train, can't make you train at 100%, can't make you eat properly, can't make you sleep enough. But I can give you the tools, and I can give you the reflections, and I can show you where you are now. And like you said right at the beginning of the podcast, we can help point out where you could be, and then we'll be on the journey with you, right? What is it going to take for you to get from here to there? And then I want to reflect on what this community is to me, what I want it to be to me, and where I see this going. And it's multi-layered. So we'll have this podcast where we can share stories, share our experience, give people tools, share our failures. I'm going to talk a lot about the stuff that's gone wrong for me as much as I'm going to talk about what's gone right for me.
I've got more of that to provide, quite frankly, mate.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about failures. And then, how we learn from those. There is going to be, there's a LinkedIn group. So come join our LinkedIn group, the Founders Catalyst. Come find us there. There'll be a monthly Zoom call. Come join us. Come spend an hour with us. Share anything you want to share, get some on the spot, free coaching. That's going to be free. And then there's going to be a Founders Intensive, which will be a 6-month program for people who really want to go very deep into this with their colleagues. And then obviously, we are business people with our own businesses. Yeah. And the last part on that is, I used to have a company called Fast Track Coaching with an amazing coach called David Legrais, ex-Olympian, 26, probably more than that by now, maybe 30 times World Masters champion, unbelievable coach and athlete. And when we first started it together, we had our own individual coaching businesses, and we run these weekend camps that were for either high-level young athletes or high-level older athletes to come and train like Olympians. Like we were giving them the same services if they were on the national team, sometimes better. Like we were at such a high standard. Yeah. And people would say, why are you doing this together? Aren't you in rivals? Like, you're the two best sprint coaches in the country. Surely you're rivals. Absolutely not. Both of our businesses expanded when we did this because we have different clients that we gel with. There were people that would be attracted to Dave and go, right, Dave's the man for me. And there'd be people attracted to me. Lee's the man for me. I really believe the work that Simon Sinek and many other people have done about the infinite game. There's enough business out there for everybody. I just want to be so good that you choose me. And I know that Steve is so good that you'll choose Steve. And it's about us providing absolutely the best service that we can to people, be it this podcast, be it the LinkedIn group, be it whether you choose to employ us and work with us. And I think competition is good and it's healthy and there's enough room for all of us to do well.
Absolutely. I mean, I really do hope that we pull in even some coaches through this process. I'm really excited about that prospect of someone coming on and even being a part of an episode and challenging some of our mindsets and our prepositions about whatever it is. I think that's a huge part of this, because everything that you're saying here, it just shows that we're walking the walk with the very community that we're trying to build. We're not trying to build something where it's like we put all the focus on you to do as we say. We want to be as absolutely true to the words that are coming out of our mouth and very much walk this walk with anybody that has that, to your point, that willingness to come in and just really find out, like, hey, what am I made of? Like, is this really what I want? Am I willing to discover some of the things that maybe I am unaware of about myself right now? And while this podcast can be a wonderful gateway towards that, from what I'm hearing is, and what I'm excited about is, the work really only begins once you get into the community. Like, this is a great gateway into it, but yeah. I can't wait for people to start moving into this community more consistently.
Yeah, love that. I don't have all the answers. I know that you don't have all the answers. I'm expecting to learn as much from this process as anybody that takes part in our community. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share with you, I've got a call after this with a company that's going through some turbulent times, and I'm scared about how that call's going to go. I'm going to have to hold a lot of space for people that are going to have a lot of emotions about what's going on. Yep. And I have fear about doing that call. But it's not going to stop me doing the call, right? I know that I can be of service, and, our new tagline, figure it out. I'm going to figure it out in the process. And I think there's a level of humility that we can keep while still striving and being exceptionally high performers. And that's what keeps me motivated. That journey of, I just want to be better. And I think at the point, Steve, that I go, there's nothing more for me to learn about leadership or high performance or running teams. That's the day I retire, because then it won't be fun anymore.
Right. No, I'm with you on that. And again, just this morning I was having coffee with someone, what I would call a discovery meeting, and seeing if it would be a good fit. And even in that, just from some of the things they were bringing to me, I immediately felt as a coach, this person was going to challenge me to become a better coach. And for me, that is arguably as much of a thing intuitively, that if I don't notice that when I'm first meeting with someone, like, this person's going to make me a better coach, I'm not really drawn to it. The challenge isn't what I was hoping it would be. And I'm hearing that in abundance with you, mate. Like, the people that you work with, it's like, I can not only see how I can help you, but I can immediately tell how you're going to challenge me to become a better coach in this process by serving you. And I hope that people get to experience our growth as coaches as we experience it. I'm excited to share that kind of growth in this group, and for it to be a place where people say, oh, those two guys that started this podcast a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I can hear and tell their evolution that has taken place over that time, because they've been willing to put it out here for us to hear as they're going through it. And that in itself is something that I'm just truly excited about being a part of through this entire process.
Me too, buddy. Come join us, friends.
Come join us.
Time for a cat.
This is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. And I think we've already found our tagline, the founders catalyst. We're excited for you to be here and figure it out. That's it. That's it right there. All right, mate. Well, listen, I'm so excited to go on this journey with you. I'm excited that people are listening to this for the first time, and you'll be hearing from us many more times down the road, folks.
And make sure to use the comment section, and make sure to rate us. We want to get this podcast out to as many people as possible. If you enjoy it, tell your friends about it, tell your colleagues about it. We're here to make the world better. And I don't say that in some pith like, I want to make the world better, let's hug a tree. I say that as, we really want to make the world better. There's opportunities for things to be better, and we want to make that. We want to support that.
Looking forward to it, mate. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Thanks again for listening to the show. If you like what you heard, appreciated the witty banter, and of course, appreciated the quality of the insights we provided, please take a moment to give us a 5-star rating.
It helps us reach a larger audience so we can support more people just like you. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform.
There will never be a better time than now to start investing in yourself, so be sure to act upon what you took from this episode and let us know how it goes. We love hearing from our audience.
From Steve Mellor and myself, Lee Povey, thanks for listening and being you.